We'll officially begin our class, continuing the molecular relationship. And we left off about the mind slaying the real. The problem with the mind, the big thing the mind has to overcome is illusion. Now, emotionally, what we have to overcome is glamour. What's the difference between glamour and illusion? Who would like to answer that question?
Okay, JJ, can I give it a try?
Sure.
Well, glamour is ego-driven. Glamour is glamour is well, glamour actually is an illusion, isn't it? I mean, that whole the whole ego world, or the whole idea of importance, self-importance.
It
Uh,
could be called related to illusion, but it's different than pure illusion.
all right.
And it is, you're right, it is ego driven. And it's connected with, we have three bodies and the three worlds of form. Which body is glamour connected with?
Well,
With the physical body and two other bodies.
Astral.
Right, the astral, emotional body. Okay, so glamour is associated with feelings. And it's very deceptive, but not because of mind, but because of emotions. And what do the emotions want almost more than anything else?
To feel good.
Feel good, that's part of it. And people, we feel good because of something really important. And that is, we want to feel like we are important. Okay. So the glamours are around a feeling of importance. So if we have a glamour of that may be associated with uh, a, a, a feeling like you are superior to other people in a lot of things where you may not be superior, then that is a glamour associated with a feeling of importance. You people generate different ideas or feelings in their emotional body that makes them feel important. And what's interesting about glamours is even people that are artificially humble sometimes do it. It's a play for a pat on the back. Like they'll say, "Oh, I'm not very good at this," when they really think they are good at it. But they're looking for a pat on the back, so to speak, that feeling of importance. So there's even a glamour associated with humility if it's not a sincere humility. So glamour is associated with uh, that amplifying the feeling of importance beyond what you deserve. Now, this is very difficult to overcome, and it must be overcome to pass the second initiation, where the person basically is able to dispel his major glamours. And it takes a very sincere heart, a very sincere approach to be able to dispel these glamours. Now, on the other hand, we have illusion, which is totally different. And which body is affected by illusion?
The mental body.
Right, the mind. The mental body is where the illusion is. Now, the funny thing about illusion, it's different than glamour. Glamour is overcome by learning to be a good, decent person, really helps you to overcome glamour. Because if you learn to be truly humble and truly just and truly honest with yourself, you can make many inroads to dispelling glamour and control the ego. So the ego isn't dominating to the point where you have to be feeling superior all the time. So just being a good person can really help you master the emotional body and the glamours associated with it. But illusion is totally different. You can be totally dedicated to being a good, wonderful person, but be trapped in an illusion and take a path that's completely wrong, completely destructive. How do you think that can happen?
That's like being on the right track, but going the wrong direction.
Exactly. So can you give me an example? Somebody give me an example of an illusion that can lead somebody astray. He's trying to do what is right, but he's trapped in an illusion where he believes something destructive.
That you can force people to do things, and that leads to permanent positive change.
Yeah. How about these rioters that we have? Do you think some of these rioters are that are destroying things really believe are trying to be good people? That they really believe they're doing the right thing? You think some of them really think that?
Well, even Hitler thought he was doing the right thing.
Right. And DK tells us that Hitler himself was mastered the glamours, and he became a second-degree initiate, but he was trapped in an illusion.
I think I read, I'm sorry, JJ, I read in one of the theosophical books that Hitler was visited by a shining elemental that was telling him of what he was going to do, what he was going to accomplish. But it was deluding him. It was playing to his sense of self-importance and desire to control the world and to wreak havoc. And he was following this direction. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I've read.
Yeah, I read about an associate of Hitler who knew him when he was younger, and he said Hitler was visited by this entity that called himself an overlord.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And give Hitler instructions that he was going to rule the world. And so, he came pretty close. So anyway, Hitler, what was Hitler's illusion? What was his illusion about the Jews?
Well, that he was better than the Jews, which is also a glamour.
Yeah.
So but also historically, yeah. I'm sorry, JJ. Also historically, historically that I mean, there was a long-standing anti-Semitism and dislike that was brewing, and that elemental did just he just put his finger onto that pulse and just activated all of the other individuals in Germany at that time, and Austria as well, to react in that way against making Jews diminishing them as human beings, making them appear as blights and vermin and so on and so on. But the spirit of the time and the prejudices that were already existed played into it and helped it greatly, I think.
Right.
Well, illusions come from false ideas in the mind or wrong core beliefs. And I think he really did believe that the Aryan race, or that his race was superior to the Jews. I think he really believed that, which was
Right. Not only superior to the Jews, but also the blacks and other minorities.
homosexual.
But especially the Jews, he picked out, and some of the white supremacists today still have this attitude that the Jews are like the seed of Satan, so to speak, and they are an enemy to mankind. And he fell into this illusion that the Jews are they're just people like everybody else in reality, but in Hitler's mind, they were an enemy that needed to be destroyed. And he really believed he was doing the right thing in doing that. And this negative belief he had, even though he, in his mind, was trying to do what was right, he was caught in an illusion that turned out to be very destructive. And this is an interesting thing about illusion. Hitler is an extreme example, but everybody is caught up in some type of illusion until they reach the third initiation. And even after that, there are higher end illusions, but a lot of the basic illusions are dispelled when the disciple reaches that third initiation. Now, the third initiation is where enlightenment comes in. The enlightenment came, one of the greatest examples we have of that in history was when Paul was on the road to Damascus. And he thought that arresting and putting these Christians in jail and destroying them was the best thing to do. He was under this illusion that the Christians needed to be destroyed. Now, Paul was very sincere. In his mind, he was doing the righteous thing. He was doing his best to be a good guy, but he was caught in this illusion that the Christians were an enemy to mankind and needed to be destroyed. And on his way to Damascus, we're told that he had this flash of light and heard the voice of Christ asking him, why are you kicking against the pricks? And, but before this happened, it's not written in the scriptures, but I think that Paul started thinking on the way to Damascus. You're just having a really long walk, have plenty of time to think. He probably began to doubt whether or not he was right. He began to examine his motives and whether or not he was really doing the right thing. And as he was reflecting, I think that's when the door opened for that revelation to come to him. And it dispelled the illusion that the Christians needed to be destroyed. And it totally changed his life.
Well, JJ, I think it was more like the cult of the Nazarene. I don't think they even called them Christians then. There was like the cult of the Nazarene, and he was and Jesus was just an iconoclastic Jew. Yeah, I mean, he was there to reform Judaism.
Yeah, it was a beginning of Christianity. That's kind of another subject, but it was the beginning of Christianity, though, and they called themselves, I think, ecclesia was one of the things they called themselves, which meant actually it meant a form of a gathering, but and it's translated as church. But
the thing that the Jews have been persecuted throughout history by the Egyptians, the Romans, and a whole lot of others.
Yeah, they're probably in as good a shape now as ever, and then the Jews in Israel are still facing a lot of threats. But
well, here's the thing, which I wrote a little bit about in my book on karma, and that is to enter into the land of Canaan, the tribe of Judah had to destroy thousands and thousands of Canaanites, Ishmaelites, Amorites, and they would take the kings and torture them to death. So the tribe of Judah really incurred upon itself incredible negative karma, which had to be mitigated at some point down the road. So, there's a statement in the Course of Miracles avoid the temptation to consider yourself unfairly treated.
Mhm.
So, maybe the Jews were just reaping upon themselves some of the negative karma that they sowed under the governing entity of Jehovah.
That's what DK says, is that they accumulated quite a bit of karma with some of their activities there.
Yeah, I mean, they killed thousands and thousands of people brutally.
Okay, the important point is all of us have illusions of some type. So what each of us need to do along the path is examine ourselves and say, where are my illusions? And we can see illusions in politics, especially now. When I was younger, it seemed like religion was the big point of friction. Now it's turned to politics. Politics is steamier than religion ever was, in my lifetime anyway. And when two people are arguing and mad at each other, either one or both is caught up in an illusion because they have different ideas of what's right. And like I say, if there's a conflict, either one or both are wrong, and oftentimes it is both. So what we have to do is look for the illusion in this political world that is so steamy right now, and see what we can do to dispel it. And it's a lot easier to correct ourselves than somebody else. If you see somebody else an illusion on something and try to correct them, you'll find out that normally they don't want to be corrected. Okay. But there is one person that we can actually have power to correct, and that is ourselves. That's why it's important to reflect. I think it was Socrates who said, a life unexamined is not worth living. And so we must examine our lives. And this is one of the things that DK tells us to do, is to, at the end of each day, we should reflect on the events of that day and how we handled everything and how accurate we were in our thinking and our actions. So it's very difficult. Perhaps the most difficult thing of dispelling illusion is coming to the point in our lives where we think we actually consider that we may be an illusion about something. Because most people in their belief system, they believe things a certain way and they don't consider that that belief may have an illusion incorporated into it. And but when you find the illusion and dispel it, it's a very liberating thing. Now, some of the people here have been trapped in a religion and the thought form of it, and was able to dispel that and escape from it and remove themselves from the mark of the beast so that they could think for themselves and not just think as they're told to think. And this type of illusion is also generated in political parties. You notice when people is elected to Congress, they tell us what they're going to do. They're going to be working for the average guy and everything. And then when they get there, all they do is they just vote with their party. Now, their party could be right, their party could be wrong, but their party isn't right all the time. So they, the fact that they go there and they vote with their party just about 100% of the time shows that they're caught up in an illusion there of some sorts that they need to examine so that they can truly represent the people. But this illusion is a very tricky thing, and it's very difficult to see. And say if you were in illusion and somebody pointed it out very clearly, most people in illusion would just totally reject it right out of hand. The only way to dispel it is, it's often stimulated by a crisis in your life where you're forced to reflect. And then when it's really dispelled is when you allow yourself to be in contact with something higher than mind. And what is that?
Well, your higher mind is connected to your intuition.
Right, right, the intuitive world. And that's where you obtain some soul contact. And once you obtain insights from the higher world, because like we talked about last time, the mind slays the real, the mind goes so far, it gets trapped in illusion, it can't free itself, and finally the person gets in so many dead ends that he gets so frustrated that he begins to search and wants to know how to get out of that situation, how to move ahead, because he feels like he's blocked. And at that point, he finally reaches a point of tension. That point of tension opens the door to the soul and the intuition and brings down a revelation to him. And that revelation, if he is willing to accept it, will dispel illusion. But even there, it's not that easy, because when he gets the revelation, that insight comes to him, what happens to him right after he gets it? The first
He goes through a trial of his faith.
Right. He begins to doubt himself. He says, did I really get that from a higher source? And he begins to doubt himself. And everything happens in his life to try to make him believe that, to reject this higher knowledge. And if the key is that when he gets this higher insight, he needs to keep it fresh in his mind, remind himself about it. Go back in your mind to when you received it and how you felt. Keep it fresh in your mind, and then it will not be taken away from you. And that's
I was excommunicated from the Mormon Church and I got a witness on reincarnation, a spiritual witness that lasted 3 days, and it stayed with me and never left. It's still there. And after, all my friends in the church that I'd known for years tried to dissuade me. Oh, that was of the devil. You know, you have to follow your higher authorities. They know the truth, and they'll never lead you astray. And you just got some insight from the devil. And I was being pulled right and left from, probably 10 or 15 different friends and sources, but once you get a spiritual witness, it reigns supreme above any argument that the outside world will throw at you.
right. You're fortunate to have a powerful one. Sometimes it comes in a really still small voice that the disciple wonders if it was just his imagination. Now, you knew it wasn't your imagination because it was a strong one, but sometimes you get really, really quiet ones. And the disciple is tempted to think that it's his imagination and to dismiss it. But whenever you get it, whether it's powerful or very still and small, the disciple needs to register it. And if he does, he then has the opportunity to dispel illusion. And Curtis, when he got his, dispelled the illusion that we just have one life and that's it. And dispelling that illusion just totally changes the way you see things. It's amazing what it does.
Yeah,
So,
well, the illusion.
Curtis, you said that you were pulled in different directions. So I'm interested to know, you were advised that you were being deluded, and then there were those that advised that you were not being deluded, that you got true revelation. Am I correct in that?
Only my inner voice pulled me in that direction. All the others
right.
were negative. So these illusions from the outside world were, don't trust yourself. You just lead yourself astray. You have to follow external authorities because they're put in a position to lead you.
So were you feeling a very big conflict within yourself about this?
No. Once I was just in it, all my friends wanted me to do the right thing. The inner conflict
As they thought it was the right thing, as they thought, as your religion, doctrine said.
Well, yeah, because once you're excommunicated, you're castigated to hell. You do not pass go. No, get out of jail free card. You have surrendered your all rights to salvation. Basically, you're damned when you're excommunicated.
I got,
And
yeah, go ahead.
and here I was feeling elated, and they couldn't understand, why are you so happy that you're excommunicated? And I said, well, man, I set myself free, and now I can think what I want, I can read what I want, I can do what I want. I'm my own person. They couldn't understand that.
I got a kind of cute story. A short time before this happened to Curtis, I give him this treatise I wrote on life after death that disagreed with the authorities of the church.
Oh, an eternal progression.
Yeah, and Curtis got together with a good friend of his, and they read it over, and boy, he thought it was, his friend thought it was, I was really out in left field, and they both called me up, and they were asking me questions about it, and then one of them said, I can't remember if it was you or your friend, Curtis, he says, so do you think you know more than the prophet? And I thought about that for about 2 seconds, and I says, yeah. And all of a sudden there was a silence for about 5 or 10 seconds, like they were stunned, because they'd never heard anybody say that before. Because in the Mormon church, the prophet is almost like God. If the prophet speaks, that's it.
Your highest authority.
That was like saying I knew more than God, just about. So I think that when I said that, I think that was a little bit of a hammer that moved Curtis a couple inches away from that illusion. Do you remember that, Curtis?
No, I remember. That was Neil.
Yeah.
And we were never friends, and he's hated you ever since.
Yeah, that was about the most startling thing you could say to a Mormon, is that you know more than
You know more than the prophet? I might have asked you that. I mean, just out of curiosity, where do you consider yourself?
Okay, the reason mastering these things in a relationship is important, to master the ego, glamours, illusion, because if these are mastered to a degree at least, then the two people can reach a higher union. So just reaching a union on the physical plane isn't enough. Reaching a union where you share romantic love, you're not all the way there yet. There's higher unions in the mind and in the spirit. And so to dispel illusion and glamour is an important thing for couples to work on, so that they as a unit can blend their energies and go higher. And there's one illusion that's out there that is very powerful, is the statement that a lot of New Agers make is, I don't need anybody else, I'm complete within myself. Okay, that's an illusion, because we're not complete by ourselves. We are complete when we bring everybody with us. Okay, eventually every single person will come home, and we just don't go home alone. We go home to the our source eventually as the prodigal son, but we will take others with us. To achieve the highest possible union with a partner, a person should approach the relationship from the top down, or from the mind down to the body, not from the bottom up, as was the case with most people. So the the spiritual person starts with the mind, and then he descends to the emotions, and then finally to the physical. The natural instinct, especially in males, is to engage the physical first as soon as possible. The females are a little different than the males that way. The females, because the emotions are female energy, the female has a natural instinct to want the emotions stimulated before sex. They just don't like to just jump into it. A lot of guys are willing to just jump right into it, the physical, as soon as possible, heck with emotions. But the females like to have emotional stimulation.
Well, you
That's
have to romance them.
right. And so anyway, the the natural instinct of the natural man is to begin with the lower and try to move up, whereas the spiritual person begins as high as possible. And how high can the spiritual person begin at? Where does he begin?
Talk about ideas.
Right? He begins where his consciousness is. If his consciousness is an average person, he'll focus on the emotional level, bring the woman candy, bottle of wine, romance her, and so on. So he involves her emotionally. If he is higher evolved still, he can begin with the mind. He can discuss ideas, concepts, uh, projects, goals, things like that, and get enrapture the partner in with these ideas. And then when the partner finds these interesting, then he starts romancing, and then descends finally to the physical. Now, even in a more advanced person still, he focuses on the spiritual. He may decide to go to a spiritual class, maybe something like Course in Miracles, and try to meet somebody there that's interested in following the spiritual path. He maybe go to an esoteric class, or if he's religious, he might even go to church. They don't have the spiritual enlightenment that some do, but if that's the best he has, fine. But so the spiritual person looks for somebody that's interested in his spiritual goals. And then he'll descend to ideas, and then the emotions, and then the physical will be last for the optimum union. Now, if he decides to begin at the physical, following the line of least resistance, and then move up, moving up is difficult once you begin low. Once you begin low and then try to move up, it's like trying to row upstream. If you begin up and then go down, it's like going downstream. It's a lot, the activating the union energies is much easier if we start at the right place. Now, the problem with this later approach is that a physical relationship entered into without interplay of the emotions and the mind merely stimulates the sexual energies, which makes it more difficult for the higher energies later. Now, women instinctively know this is true, even though few are able to logically express the reason in words. And that's a funny thing about sex, is people have a difficult time expressing sex, love, energies in words that are understandable. But the woman wants to be known, at least on an emotional level, the desire plane. She wants to share some feelings so the physical relationship can have some meaning. Now, one can tell which energy controls a person's actions by observing how they initiate relationships. So you watch a person, how they will initiate a relationship. You can tell pretty much what level their consciousness is on as far as seeking union goes. Do they really want a high union, or do they just want the purely physical level feelings? So So the physical alone just activates the sacral energy, and the emotional, the heart, and mental, the head, and the spiritual love, the whole center, the heart and the head. So, any questions on that before we move on, or comments? Yeah, it's,
Well, that's one of the labors of Hercules that I'm going to go into, how he has to ascend into the higher mind, like he does in Capricorn. Talk about that, and it's really a labor to raise yourself up to that higher level of consciousness when you're with a beautiful woman and you're just thinking physical thoughts.
yeah, the right handling of sexual energy is very difficult because it entraps a lot of really highly evolved people. Like JFK was a very highly evolved person, yet he got trapped in it. And he was trapped in it, I think, because of an illusion, because his father taught him that women were to be used, you know. And his father actually had a philosophy on this. And I think JFK kind of bought into an illusion on that. And that's what made him such a womanizer. And
His brother too, not to quite extent, but he's
yeah.
Many people in power think that there are no rules for them regarding that. They think that they have the power to do whatever the heck they want to, and like.
Yeah, I think it's more with JFK and some of these leaders. It's more to do with power than sexual energy, because like JFK had tremendous self-control in a lot of areas of his life. So it wasn't lack of self-control. It was, I think, an illusion around a sense of power, perhaps. So that's a good point there.
Power and sex. I'm sorry, JJ, to interrupt you. But you're correct. Power and sex are bedfellows, because when you have a sense of power, you have a sense of conquest, and that also that links into the sexual drive too, I believe. So, but then that type of a personality is looking for more of a passive woman, like a passive, feminine type of a woman that is just going to be adoring and just fall at his feet. A strong, opinionated woman who just so happened to be attractive, I don't know if they would actually want to engage them in any kind of a.
Yeah, I've met a number of females that have told me that powerful men avoid them because they don't like powerful, strong women. And power is an interesting thing. We talked about that. It seems like it would be the easiest thing for us to master, but it's really the most difficult thing. People just do not realize what a temptation power is when they actually get it.
It's more subtle than sex.
Yeah, it's a subtle thing. Yeah, right.
Now Hitler, by the way, he was a vegetarian. He had a lot of self-control with women. I think he would with Eva Braun was the only woman he really connected with.
Yeah, he was always preaching moral principles to his guys. And if they smoked, he was trying to get them to quit smoking and try to put them on better diets. I mean, he was an interesting character, but he was trapped in that illusion and trapped in the illusion that power created for him also.
Yeah.
So,
the most tragic thing, but the most horribly tragic thing in my estimation is that when they took that symbol of the swastika that is meant for just good and goodwill, good luck, just good fortune, just benevolence, and turned it into this horribly twisted thing that now you couldn't even have a conversation.
Yeah, we won't be able to use that swastika for 1,000 years. Matter of fact, in World War I, the United States used a swastika even.
I didn't know.
Well, Madame Blavatsky used that, not the way it was depicted by the Nazis, because they turned it, like, you know, like the pentagram with the horns upward, which would indicate black magic for a a follower of Wicca. You know, the
Yeah.
pentagram is the five-man star. So what they did was they turned that swastika to the left with the arms upward. That's
Right.
that's the difference.
It corrupted it spirals into matter. If
Right,
it
they
had
turned it into
spiraled left the other way out of matter into spirit, it would have been a positive sign.
If Hitler was only with Eva Braun, how did he get syphilis?
Did he get syphilis? I never heard that.
No, well, I don't know. You tell me. Did he have syphilis? I didn't know he did.
That's my understanding.
I
Never.
believe he had
Well,
syphilis. I believe he had syphilis and Parkinson's. But he had what I read. I read an article from a book about the history of Eva Braun. Yeah, he got involved with her, but she fit the bill of all the the Aryan superiority. But he was going around, and he was around. So he left her at home while he was out doing his thing, and she was like pining away at home. Actually, what was going on there?
Hmm.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
right in that regard.
Yeah, Hitler was an interesting character, and he was definitely led away by illusion.
Do you think he could have been just demonic possessed? There was a higher negative force that was manipulating.
Well, I think once he cooperated with the forces of evil, that he was possessed to a degree. And DK tells us he was just a shell of his former self by the end, near the end of his life. And
He's rather than divine possession, he was demonically possessed.
well, yeah, everything the Brotherhood of Light does, the Dark Brotherhood copies. Now, there's another thing Hitler originated that he stole from the Brotherhood of Light, which was the salute. That salute where he throws his hand up like that. That's a salute the Brotherhood of Light used. And he stole that from him, so now we can't do that anymore. Yeah,
I believe the Romans also did that salute. There was some variation of that salute.
Who
that
did?
Got from the Romans, the Romans, the Romans,
Oh, yeah,
the Roman
did they?
soldiers. Like
They hit their chest like that.
yeah, I know. Yes, they did that, but they also did that.
Where was the Brotherhood of Light using the that salute?
DK actually described it in one of his early books before Hitler even showed up. I don't remember exactly where I saw it, but he described that salute that the Brotherhood of Light uses. So if that's accurate, then Hitler went and screwed up two things that were in use by the different benevolent brotherhoods, which was the swastika and the salute, which nobody dares even touch anymore. And
Speaking of, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
Speaking of illusions, I hear a lot of people nowadays are praying for Paul to return to Damascus.
Oh, Damascus, that's cute.
Yes.
Did you make that up, or did you hear it somewhere?
I think I saw that in a meme on YouTube or
I saw that somewhere too, Damascus. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, the mass is becoming almost a religious thing for some people. I think after the virus is over and gone, a lot of people will want us to wear masks to protect us from the flu and all kinds of things. I think a lot of people are going to want to continue to wear masks, and that would be an interesting development. But
Well, for me, it's good if I don't shave.
yeah, you don't have to shave if you wear that mask all the time. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay, I was going to get into some examples here of uh, of relationships trying to reach union, but we don't have time for that. So
Let me just say this. Dr. Thomas Hoare taught that there's no such thing as a relationship as we know it. He says the only relationship is the joint participation in the good of God.
yeah. Well, there's relationships on lots of different levels. And, it's amazing how difficult it is just to have a successful marriage. And a lot of seekers have difficulty in forming a permanent relationship because, for one thing, a lot of times a spiritual seeker will marry somebody and then that person isn't interested in the path at all, and then they start drifting apart. And so it seems to be extra difficult for a true spiritual seeker to find a mate that
Another true
they're
spiritual.
happy with. And the average guy or woman, if they just want to get a house and dog and picket fence and get along, and then life is pretty simple. But for the spiritual seeker, it's a little bit more difficult to find a mate that they're happy with, and that's probably one of the reasons so many of them are single. And but whether you're married or single, or well, even though you're single, I should say, I think it's a desire in everyone to find a mate that they can be comfortable with. Then after you get a mate that you're comfortable with, then you want friends and other types of unions, and that you can expand with and circulate positive energy with. And so this is where we're headed in the molecular relationship, to create higher unions through more than just two people, but multiple people through various molecular orders producing specific results.
All of us here are getting closer and closer.
Yeah, we're going where no one has tread before, trying to create a molecule or to go as far as we can on the internet. And for this is kind of something we dreamed about 20 years ago, being able to meet on video like we're all together as a unit. And so we have a great opportunity here. So we'll just take it just as far as we can.
Right on, brother.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments or questions before we wrap it up?
Yeah,
Well,
if you've had enough failed relationships, when one comes along finally that is perfectly for you spiritually, you might be a little apprehensive about trying to get into another relationship.
Yeah, if people get burned a couple times, this is the problem they have. They're afraid of getting hurt, like we did talk about that earlier, and that's a big hurdle. But on the other hand, if you've had some failed relationships and you come across a really good one, I mean, I'll tell you, there's no greater high on the planet than you have some friend that has that happen to him, you'll see it transformed.
Well, that's an illusion right there that I can never overcome the negative repercussions of my failed relationship. That's an false idea.
Right.
I was going to say, if you really want to get a good example of the three initiations of the Maya, glamour, and illusion, study the three temptations of Christ and how he went through those ordeals and overcame Maya, or the man shall not live by bread alone. Glamour, where he was taken to a high mountain and said, hey, you think you're the son of God, let's see you jump off in front of all those people and show off your power. That was
stroking his ego.
That was stroking his ego. And then he overcame illusion when Satan said, well, if you bow down and worship me, I'll give you power over the nations. power over the world.
Look at all the good you can do. And that was an illusion, a trap of illusion, thinking, yeah, I could do a lot of good if I had power over the nations. So
Well, the illusion was that Satan could give him power. Yeah, you're going to give me something that I don't have. That's the illusion. The illusion
yeah,
was I already
that was
have.
one of the illusions. Yeah, that's a
Right,
good
I
point.
already have the power is within me, not through you. So he saw through that temptation to take upon himself power from an outside source,
Yeah, that's a good
which
point.
Satan
And
couldn't get power.
that's what the mark of the beast is where you lean on an outside source for being God rather than the God within. So that's a
Right.
good point. Okay, that's a good ending point. So next week we're kind of mixing these up a little bit. We'll meet at 10 a.m. on Sunday, just a few days away.
Well, that's this Sunday, right?
Okay.
Okay.
And we can reach out to some of the ones in Europe that couldn't attend today here. So good group today, and appreciate you coming. And we will see you in this coming Sunday then.
10 a.m.
Good luck
Mountain
to you all.
Standard
Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
Time. Have a good weekend.
Bye. You too.
Take care,
Have a good
everyone.
week.
Take care. Good
Thank you.
class.
Thank
Good
you.
talking to you. Bless you all.